To repair a damaged underground feeder or off cable that feeds a ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, powering a pool pump, it is important to follow a series of steps to ensure safety and proper functionality. Firstly, safety is paramount, so disconnect power to both the GFCI and the pump at the main electrical panel. This will prevent electrical shock during the repair process. Secondly, expose the damaged cable. Remove the GFCI receptacle and carefully cut the UF cable back to a point where there is enough slack to work with and make the necessary repairs. For repairing the break itself, strip the insulation from the ends of both the existing wires and the new section of UF cable that you will be using for the repair. It is essential to use a new UF cable that matches the same gauge and number of conductors as the original cable to maintain consistent electrical flow and safety. Connect the corresponding wires, ensuring that you match black to black, white to white, and green or bare ground wire to green or bare ground wire. Use appropriate wire connectors designed for underground use to create secure and waterproof connections. After making the connections, further secure them by wrapping them with electrical tape to provide additional insulation and protection against moisture. After the repair is complete, address the grounding. Verify that the pool pump is properly bonded to a ground rod. If a ground rod is not already present, it is crucial to drive a new one into the ground within 6 feet of the GFCI receptacle. Then connect the green or bare ground wire from the repaired cable to the newly installed ground rod. This ensures that the grounding system is intact, providing a path for fault current to flow back to the source, tripping the circuit breaker and preventing electrical shock hazards. Protect the repaired cable by burying it at a minimum depth of 18 inches to protect it from physical damage, or alternatively, enclose the repaired section of cable in conduit. Conduit provides an additional layer of protection against impact and abrasion, especially in areas where digging or landscaping activities may occur. After protecting the cable, test the GFCI. Restore power to the circuit at the main electrical panel and then test the GFCI receptacle to ensure that it is functioning correctly. Use a GFCI tester to verify that the device trips when a fault is simulated. If the GFCI does not trip as expected, investigate the wiring and connections to identify any issues. Finally, after verifying the GFCI's proper function, reinstall the GFCI receptacle and connect the pool pump to it. Ensure that all connections are secure and that the receptacle is properly mounted in its enclosure. Some additional notes to consider are: always use UF cable that is specifically rated for direct burial to withstand the harsh conditions of underground environments. If the cable is damaged beyond repair, consider replacing the entire section of UF cable from the GFCI receptacle to the pool pump to ensure long-term reliability. It is highly recommended to consult with a qualified electrician to perform the repair to ensure compliance with local electrical codes and safety standards. Working with electricity can be dangerous, and a professional electrician has the knowledge, skills, and equipment to complete the job safely and effectively. When selecting materials, use wire connectors that are suitable for underground use and are rated for the wire gauge you are working with. These connectors typically have a sealant or other feature to prevent moisture from entering the connection. When stripping the insulation from the wires, use a wire stripper tool to avoid nicking or damaging the conductors. Nicks can weaken the wire and cause it to break over time. When making the connections, ensure that the wire connectors are tightened securely to provide a reliable electrical connection. Loose connections can cause overheating and potentially lead to a fire. When burying the repaired cable, avoid running it through areas where it could be easily damaged by digging or other activities. Consider marking the location of the buried cable with warning tape to alert anyone digging in the area. When testing the GFCI, follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. If you are unsure how to test the GFCI, consult with a qualified electrician. Always follow all applicable electrical codes and safety regulations when performing electrical work. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to hire a qualified electrician to do the job. Remember to double-check all connections and wiring before restoring power to the circuit. A mistake could cause a short circuit, electrical shock, or fire. Keep a record of the repair, including the date, materials used, and any observations you made during the process. This information can be helpful if you need to troubleshoot the circuit in the future. Regularly inspect the UF cable and GFCI receptacle for any signs of damage or wear. Replace any damaged components promptly to prevent electrical hazards. Consider installing a weatherproof enclosure for the GFCI receptacle to protect it from the elements. This can extend the life of the receptacle and reduce the risk of electrical problems. If you are replacing the entire section of UF cable, be sure to measure the distance accurately to ensure that you have enough cable. It is always better to have a little extra cable than not enough. When pulling the new cable through conduit, use a lubricant to make it easier to pull. Avoid using excessive force, which could damage the cable. If you are unsure about any aspect of the repair, consult with a qualified electrician. It is always better to be safe than sorry when working with electricity. Make sure the new ground rod is driven deep enough to make good contact with the earth. Follow local code requirements for ground rod depth. After the repair, consider taking photos of the wiring and connections for your records. This can be helpful if you need to refer back to the repair in the future. Label the wires with wire markers to make it easier to identify them. This can be especially helpful if you are working with multiple wires. If you are using a multimeter to test the circuit, be sure to set it to the correct voltage and current range. Always wear appropriate personal protective equipment, such as safety glasses and gloves, when working with electricity. Be aware of your surroundings and avoid working in wet or damp conditions. If you are working near any water, be extra cautious to avoid electrical shock. Keep children and pets away from the work area. Disconnect any electronic devices that are connected to the circuit before starting the repair. Turn off any lights or appliances that are connected to the circuit before starting the repair. Work in a well-lit area to make it easier to see what you are doing. Take your time and avoid rushing the repair. A careful and methodical approach will help to ensure that the repair is done correctly. If you are unsure about any aspect of the repair, stop and consult with a qualified electrician. It is always better to ask for help than to make a mistake. Remember that electrical work can be dangerous, so always take precautions to protect yourself and others. By following these steps and taking the necessary precautions, you can safely and effectively repair a damaged UF cable powering a pool pump GFCI. However, if you are not comfortable performing the repair yourself, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician to do the job. They will have the knowledge, skills, and equipment to complete the repair safely and in accordance with all applicable electrical codes.